welcome back. I'm Milo and this is Low Carb Milo. Today we're making something very exciting. It's a twist on a traditional cottage pie. We're using some corn mince instead of, as well as our usual mince, because it makes it a bit lighter and it's quite nice to have kind of two different textures in there. We're using some different spices. We got some paprika here, some cumin I think it is, yeah, and some nutmeg, so that's going to be lovely. We are also using cauliflower mash, obviously, not using potatoes. The recipe for this is on the site and it's just going to change it up a bit and make it a lot more interesting. Yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, so over at the saucepan, it's a large casserole pan, whatever you're going to call it, and we're heating some olive oil, and we've got 2 cloves of garlic which have been chopped up, you can see, and a large red onion which has also been chopped up, and we're going to chuck that in there, and you want to make sure that you don't fry it, but you just soften it nicely for the spices to go in afterwards. So the onions are softening up quite nicely. They smell and look great. Going to go in with all the spices in a minute. But yeah, this is a really good dish to kind of cook for your family, cook for your mates. Feeds a lot of people. I think this one's going to feed about 4, if I've got all the measurements right. But yeah, it's kind of light, it's lovely, and the cauliflower mash is amazing. It tastes so good. So if you do use that with the recipe, you're going to absolutely love it. So here I've got the cumin, the curry powder, the paprika and the nutmeg. So I'm just going to put that all in with the onions, because that's how you want to cook your spices, is with the onions before you go in with the meat. There we go, that's all in there. And I'm just going to stir that around and get all the onions and garlic coated with the spices before we move on to the next step. So the spices have been cooking in with the onions and garlic for about 2 or 3 minutes and it smells lovely, I promise you that. And then you've got to go in with the beef. You want to put the beef in before you do with the corn, if you're using both, because the corn is going to cook really quickly. So yeah, just go in with the beef first and fry that for about 5 minutes. So now I'm just breaking up the beef a little bit. You don't want it too chunky, but you also don't want it too fine, so just break it up a little bit and then fry it with all the spices and the onions, and yeah, then you're going in with the corn afterwards. So I've been browning the mince for about 4, 5 or 6 minutes, and now you want to put in the corn. The corn, yeah, it does take way less longer to cook because it's not meat, but that's nice because it's quite nice and light, and it's just, yeah, it's quite nice to have a bit of difference in there with your cottage pie. So the corn you want to cook for about 5 minutes, just incorporate it with everything else and make sure it's kind of all mixed together, and there's not a divide between the mince and the corn. So it's smelling absolutely lovely, and the meat is all cooked, the meat and the corn. So what you want to do now is your can of tinned tomatoes, put that straight in there. So now I'm just going to add in 2 stock cubes, which we're going to put straight into the pan, as well as the Worcester sauce and the tin of tomatoes. And just stir that all together and let it simmer for about 15 minutes, and then you can move on to topping it with the cauliflower mash. So that's been simmering away for about 15 minutes. I brought it over here so I can show you what we're going to do next with it. I forgot to add in the salt and pepper earlier, so I'm actually just going to do that now. And this is going, well, I'm using this white dish which is going to go into the oven, so we can top it with the cauliflower mash and the cheese to make the shepherd's pie. So I'm just going to spoon this into here. Well, that took a while. Spooned it all into here, spilled a little bit, don't worry about that, it's not necessary for the recipe. So I'm just going to smooth it out on top a bit, just so, you know, kind of all fits well together. Put that back in there. I've got a big spoon for the cauliflower mash, and ooh, this stuff is honestly so good. So you're basically doing whatever you would do with mashed potatoes. So that's all done on top there, and I've just got a good handful of grated cheddar, which we're going to sprinkle all over the top, which is going to be all melty and gooey and incredible. I'm very excited to have this for my lunch. Perfect, now it's just going into the oven.